Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Victor King for Proline TV and JimFeist.com and Playbook.com. Victor, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good today on a Friday here, Jim. I'm doing a lot better than all the people who were forced to watch an NFL game on Thursday night. Hey, Jim, I'm already seeing the tweets today that it was like a lot of people are saying the worst Thursday night game of all time, 10-7, right? 405 total yards in that Raiders Broncos game. Now, I believe you were on the dog. Isn't that right?
I actually had the dog and the
Good.
under.
Nicely done. That was definitely the only way to go. I'm glad I laid off all the props in that game. I didn't touch any props whatsoever, which was probably a very good idea. Although, Jim, last week we did hit our Denver quarterback Bo Nix multi bet prop, so we do got to point that out. If you played him under in his passing attempts, under in his passing completions, under in his passing yards, and over in his rushing yards, you hit a pretty good parlay. Now, again, that was last week. Last night, not good at all. Knicks did not have a game. Obviously, it was all about playing the dog and the under, and that's really, really nice to hear that you were on both sides in that.
Well, Nix is very inconsistent this year. He'll
Yeah.
have moments, he'll look really great, and other moments, he'll look extremely average. Um, and that's why I can't. I was excited about Denver winning this division before the year, but I'm not as excited about it. I would actually probably give it to the Chargers if they had an offensive line, in which they don't have.
Right, they
Um,
don't.
and then of course I don't know what we saw from the offensive line from Kansas City last week against Buffalo. I'm not sure they have an offensive line, so this is a real crapshoot in that division.
Right, Denver's on this multi-game winning streak now. They're 7-2 on the season.
They're excellent.
Outstanding. But we'll say this though, in their last four wins, they've won by a combined 9 points, and the four teams that they defeated were amongst the worst seven teams in the NFL. So you don't know how good. Yeah, granted, it's a fantastic defense, and we're going on 2 years in a row now in which they've allowed less than 17 points per game, but they still don't know what they got on offense as far as Denver goes. And the fact that they're just barely getting by against some of the worst teams in the NFL does not bode well for them in the long run, I think.
No, but there was always positive and negative regressions from these young players like Bo Nix. You never know. I mean, look at what we're getting from Daniel Jones and Darnold, who were busts in previous teams, and now basically, I mean, they're really doing well. You don't know. Nix could hit his third year, his fourth year, and become a superstar. So we just don't know what we're going to get. It really is going to depend on their ability to grow and the coaching.
Right, and you touched on a good one there. We talked about it a few weeks ago about this being 2025 being the season of the veteran quarterback, the re-emergence of the veteran quarterback. And you don't get any better case in the NFL than what's going on in Arizona. Now, in our Totals Tip Sheet newsletter a couple of weeks ago, Jim, we talked about the fact that Arizona is a much more efficient offensive team with old man Jacoby Brissett than
Yes.
Kyler Murray. And you know what, Jim? I think Kyler Murray has already played his last game for the Cardinals.
Oh, I believe that. I
Yeah,
believe. I really believe that. And with his contract, he might have played his last game in the NFL.
that too. Right, right. But hey, we're 9 full weeks behind us, Jim. We've got 9 more weeks ahead of us. So again, the NFL plays a 17 game season, but over an 18-week period. So we are officially at the halfway point. And where are we in regards to totals? Well, let me see here. Last year at this time, we were 72 and 64 over under. That's 53%. It hasn't changed too much here in 2025. We're at 72 and 62 and 1 over under. That's about 54% against the spread. Last week, yes, it was a high average scoring week, 48.7, third highest scoring week of the season. With that said, though, 7 games still went over, 7 games went under last week. It was a right down the middle week in terms of totals. The averages are a little bit higher naturally because there was a game in which both teams combined for 89 points, and that was
Right.
the Cincinnati-Chicago game. That's why the averages are stacked up higher than what you would normally see in a week in which there were 7 overs and 7 unders. So again, that's what was last week. We're still 10 games over 500 in terms of more overs than unders on the season. The prime time games have been split right down the middle at 15, 16, and 1 over under. And in this week's lines, Jim, we're seeing an average of about 45.4. But again, we touched on it in this week's newsletter, the fact that 6 out of the games this week, that's almost half games, have really high over under lines of 48 or higher. There's 14 games this week. 6 out of those 14 games have got high over under lines. There are 3 games that still have the low lines, the ones under 40 points. But again, it's expected to be a pretty high scoring week when you see 6 games with totals at 48 or higher.
But it's unusual to see 3 teams. I think it's three games in the 30s.
Right, right. Cleveland and the Jets, 37.5 right now, the Browns and the Jets. One thing we will point out is there is still a very good system in play in regards to that game. When both teams come in off a bye, the under has been very, very strong. Now, it didn't happen last week in Las Vegas. It should have happened if you watched the game. But we do want to point out the fact that when both teams are in off the bye at the same time, the games do tend to go under at a pretty high percentage. That'll be the case in the Browns and the Jets game. And then you mentioned there was 2 more games with low totals. Let me see here. Those games are I don't see them here on the board here, Jim. Oh, the Saints game, right? Saints and Panthers.
And the Jags Texans.
And the Jags Texans, right? So 2 out of 3 of those low
And
scoring totals are division games.
right, right. Um, I had a mixed results for myself last week with the totals. I got a couple of games that looked like they would have gone over, but they ended up a couple points short. So I ended up on my own totals. I was 2-3.
Not bad, not great, but it'll definitely move us on to the following week. That's for sure. Yeah. So Jim, while we're here and while we're talking about the totals, let me throw out one that I like that we mentioned in the tip sheet newsletter, and it is a indoor over this week that we're looking at, and it's the Ravens heading up to the Great White North to take on the Minnesota Vikings in their dome up there. And now that both teams are back to their normal starting quarterbacks and that they're both healthy, I think the over is worth a look here. You may not believe it, but the Minnesota Vikings are actually the number 1 over team in the NFL this season with a 7-1 record. A little bit surprising. You would have guessed maybe Detroit, maybe Baltimore, maybe the Colts would be the best over team this year, but it is actually the Minnesota Vikings, including a perfect 6-0 to the over in their last 6 games in a row. And of course, right behind them with 6-2 over under record are these visiting Baltimore Ravens, a team that has also in the last 2 seasons gone 13-4 to the over when playing on Sundays. Baltimore Ravens. So there you have it. Their average points per game on the road in that time span for the Ravens, 54.6. Gives us a nice cushion here. The over-under line in this game is, again, one of those that are at 48 or higher. So you got the visiting Ravens, and they're off a Thursday night game, and that's the very, very first aspect of the game that I queried in our database. Teams off a Thursday game, AFC teams off a Thursday game have gone 15-2 to the over in the last 3 years when the over-under line is 42 or more points. That added rest helps teams. They score more, they give up more points, and that is the case for the Ravens in this particular game. Baltimore comes in with the league's best rushing numbers, and that's my next query in the database. They're averaging 5.2 yards per rush on the season, the Baltimore Ravens. So here you got another nice one that's gone 16-3 to the over in the last 4 years. AFC road teams playing on Sundays who average 5.1 or more yards per rush. That applies again to the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, off 2 really, really big wins in a row. They slammed our Dolphins 28-6 last Thursday. They beat the Bears 30-16 in the game before that. So that puts them active in another, again, high scoring situation that's gone 13-1 to the over. And we're looking at game 13 or less favorites of a field goal or more off back-to-back wins in which they scored 28 or more and allowed 17 or less. So we're not worried that Baltimore didn't give up a lot of points in those last 2 games. Here on the road, indoors, Minnesota should definitely get their points. One more thing I will look at in regards to the game is that I think Baltimore on their team total is also worthy of a look, over 26.5 points. Yes, we're playing the full game over, but you may want to put it together with Baltimore to go over their team total as well. Either way, I think that we see a higher scoring game than people anticipate up there in Minnesota on Sunday.
I agree. I think the only question we have on Minnesota is what we have had all year is JJ McCarthy.
Right.
And then he got hurt, or was that a soft benching so that they could bring in Wentz because they didn't see any, and there was nothing really good about McCarthy's efforts. And then last week against the Lions, he was okay, but he didn't have great stats, 143 yards. But he didn't make many mistakes, and he threw some nice passes.
Right, he did have 2 deep passes. I believe he ran one in as well.
Right,
he led them to 27 points. So hey, good start. It was on the road in a hostile environment. They're back home, indoor on the carpet. Good start last week. We can pretty much pencil in Minnesota to get 23 or more in this game, which I think would put the full game over the total.
I agree. I think this kid has a really good future. I don't think they made a mistake with him. I think they might have been a little premature with it. And losing Darnold, of course, look what Darnold's doing up in Seattle. So but this is a very dangerous team. And with the Lions and the Packers both losing, and last week, Minnesota's in the mix. They're there.
They're there. You're right.
They can make some headway. I mean, nobody really gave them much of a chance to win this division, but they're not out of it.
Not at all. In fact, if you take a look at the NFL standings, this is a screwy division here in which Green Bay is the leader with that 5-2-1 record. Let's not forget that they, tied against the Dallas Cowboys. But it's the only division in football in which all 4 teams are at 500 or better, and it looks like it's going to be a great second half in that division. That's for sure. And
we kind of have the same thing going on in the West with Arizona, Seattle, Rams, and 49ers. I mean, now that they've switched, excuse me, to Brissett, that's a 4 very capable teams. I don't know how the hell the Niners winning with all those injuries, but they have ambulances on the sidelines for them constantly. But I'm just kidding, of course. But they keep winning with tons of people out. There's 2 big matchups in the West this weekend. So I'm not getting off scale, but I just wanted to compare to this other division here. That's another division just like it.
It's a good segue too, if you ask me, because that's the next game I want to talk about. Is one of those 2 NFC West divisional matchups, and it's going to be one of Tuco's plays this week in which he's actually going under the total in a team total with one of those 4 teams, and it's going to be the Niners at home to go under 23 points as they host the Rams this week. And what do we got here in terms of the total? Yeah, right around 23. If you can find a 23.5, then it's worth even a bigger play. Right now, we got it penciled in as a 2-star in the game. The implied score right now, based on the point spread and over underline, is Rams 26.5, San Francisco 23.0. What we do know about the Niners is, I understand they had a 34-point blowout last week against the New York Giants, but guess what? You're going to get that when you're playing the Giants. You're going to get some high-scoring offense against that rather bad defense. With that said, San Francisco is still dead last, number 32 in team totals this season. They're 3-6 over under. They're averaging 21.6 points per game. In fact, if you look at San Francisco home games specifically, they are the only team in the NFL this season that has yet to go over their team total. They're 0-3. They're averaging only 19 points per game on offense at home on the season. And we'll see what they do against a real defense this week. I'm talking about the LA Rams defense. Remember, San Francisco, they've scored over 21 points in only 3 games this season out of 9, versus the Giants last week, versus the Saints, and versus these same Rams earlier this year when they pulled off the upset road win 26-23 earlier in the season, a game that I'm sure the Rams remember and they want to get their revenge this week. Now you're asking the Niners to score 24 or more points versus the number 2 defense in the entire league. No, thank you, folks. I want no part of it. The Rams are allowing only 15.9 points per game on the season, and only 6.7 in their last 3 games. 6.7 last 3 games, Rams.
Wow.
That's not only that, but we'll complete with this. I always do in the totals tip sheet, Jim, we do on our back page here, we do a NFL red zone TD scoring percentages. This is a must-read chart for over-under bettors because you can see which teams do well when they get to the red zone, scoring TDs, and which teams give up a lot on defense and vice versa, of course. In the red zone right now, Denver is number 1 red zone defense in this on the season. They're allowing only 34.8% touchdowns on the season. But the Rams are number 2 in the league. When a team gets to the 20-yard line or inside, the Rams are only allowing touchdowns 39.1% of the time. It's either going to be a field goal or a missed field goal or a turnover when you're playing this great Rams defense and you've got it into the red zone against that. Not only that, in the last 3 games, LA is allowing only 12.5% TD percentage once opponents get to the red zone. So the Niners, they're not playing with a full deck on offense, that's for sure. We've still been an injured team. You think they might score a lot of points based on what happened last week. Don't fall for the trap. So our first team total is going to be the Niners to score under 23 points as they host the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams won this game like 27-17, maybe 31-20, somewhere in that range there. But I do not think the Niners will get to 24 or more, even at home.
So, and by those scores, it seems like you like the Rams.
Yeah, I do. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? The way they're playing right now, great defense. Matt Stafford has found the fountain of youth. It looks like Puka is going to be okay this week with his rib injury. What a team! And you know what? They still may not be the best team in the division the way Seattle's looking as well.
And Seattle adds this player Shaheed, who's lightning speed, who's going to open up that offense. Not that they really need to open up that offense, but they are going to have. They're going to stretch the field a lot, and that seems to be their game plan.
That was a great move, picking up Rashid Shaheed of the Saints, definitely, especially with Cooper Kupp in his older years. He's a little bit more brittle. He's a little bit more injury prone. So yeah, Shaheed will fit in very, very nicely. Thank you, with Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and the Jigma and the rest of that Seattle team for sure.
I know
But
about
let me
I know
go ahead.
about getting old being more brittle thing.
I know, don't we all, Jim?
Yes. Yes.
But let me go to a. We're going to go from the West Coast, Jim. We're going to come all the way back down here to the Sunshine State where we live, and 2 out of 3 of the Florida teams are playing at home this week. Dolphins hosting the Bills, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the hot New England Patriots. And that's where Tuco is going to go for his next team total. Is he's going to play the hot Patriots to score over 23 points. They've set the bar nice and low for us here, which I really, really like in this non-conference game against Tampa Bay. Now, no one in the NFL is playing the quarterback position any better than Drake May of the Patriots here. During this great 6-game winning streak, New England is averaging 29.7 points per game with Drake May throwing some ungodly numbers. That's almost 30 points per game during this 6-game winning streak. And now you're asking them to score only 24 or more? Yeah, I want a piece of that. Not only that, they're 6-3 in their team totals this season. The hot Patriots, 6 overs, only 3 unders. That's nice, even better. They're the only team in the league that's gone a perfect 4-0 to the over in their team totals when playing on the road. They're actually scoring more points on the road than they are at home. To New England, 28.0 points per game on the road this season. Obviously, Jim, they're taking on a Tampa Bay defense that is outstanding against the run, as is New England, also a very good rush defense as well. But this is a Tampa Bay defense that can indeed be passed on. In fact, in their 4 games versus good quarterbacks this season, those quarterbacks being Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts, and Mac Jones, the Bucks have allowed 27.4 points per game. And in addition, Tampa Bay home games are also higher scoring than their road team. They're the only one. They're one of only 3 teams on the season that's gone over the total in every home game this season. Points for 28, points allowed 25.7. If you can find a 22.5 line, then I would bump this up from a 2-star to even a 3-star play. In fact, that's what I did this morning when I bet it at the on my Hard Rock Casino app. Was I did play the alternate line of New England over 22.5. It cost me minus $1.25, but I think it's worth it because both 23 and 24 are key numbers in the NFL when it comes to team totals. Right now, the line's 23.0 and is obviously worthy of a 2-star play. But again, if you can find a 22.5 in the game, I'd bump this up to just a normal 3-star play. Patriots over their team total down here. It should be a South Florida shootout, I think, Jim.
That I would think so. And then Tampa Bay is coming off the bye. Now they
Yeah.
haven't played. I mean, Baker Mayfield's like tremendous. He's had a great year, but he hasn't played one game where his team has been healthy. Not one game. I mean, three offensive linemen were out for a couple games. They're wide receivers. Evans is gone for the year.
Bucky Irving, man. Yeah, I know, man.
Irving is. I don't know if Irving's going to play this week.
No, he's not. He's not.
That's. I mean, they are. I don't know what the hell's going on. And there's so many injuries in this league. So it's you got to dance through the raindrops and try to stay dry with all these injuries.
It's the one thing that pisses me off more than anything in these 10 dynasty fantasy football leagues that I'm in. And I've been playing fantasy football as long as I've been gambling, since way back in 1979 is when I first started playing fantasy football. And Jim, I hate injuries in fantasy football. You can have a great fantasy football team, and all it takes is a couple of freak injuries, and your great team all of a sudden automatically sucks. It's the only drawback to A, betting, and B, playing fantasy football.
Right.
are unplanned injuries. It's the one aspect of handicapping betting fantasy football that I absolutely detest. I just wish that all teams were at full strength in every game, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, that's why they say it's a tough way to make an easy living.
I love it. Absolutely. So, hey, we got a nice team total on the Niners under. We got a nice team total on the Patriots over the total.
And I think you said you had Baltimore over the total as well.
Yeah, oh, correct. The full game, Ravens and the Vikings over the total. One more thing about this New England Tampa game, you do realize that you got a fantastic quarterback matchup of the guy who's currently number 3 in terms of odds in the MVP race. That would be Drake May against the guy who's still number 5 in current odds in the MVP race in Baker Mayfield. So, hey, it's got everything that you'd want in a shootout. Obviously, we're playing New England over their total. We may play the full game over as well as we look into some more aspects of the game over the weekend. But again, it should be a fantastic quarterback matchup, that is for sure. But, Jim, I think that while we're traveling, I think we should consider traveling overseas again for our first and really only big parlay of Week 10 action, and that is the fact that
We're going to Germany.
we're going to Germany. My relatives will be hosting a game in Germany. I believe there's been one other game played in Deutschland thus far last season. That was that Patriots game in Germany. They're playing in Olympic Stadium in Berlin this week. It should be very, very exciting. I know that the few relatives I still have over there love their NFL football, particularly the
Really?
games played in Germany. And in terms of the line of the game right now, it's the Falcons and the Colts. Of course, you got an overachieving team against a team that many are saying is kind of underachieving on the season in the Falcons. Colts will, it looks like the Falcons are drawing some money in the game. I know at one point the Colts were -7. It's pretty much a solid 6 to 6.5 right now. And the over-under line pretty much has not moved all week long, if you ask me. It's 48 to 48.5 and has been like that all week long. Now, the total's too high for me to bet the over. I don't like going over the total in these international games, particularly when the over-under line is on the high side. There are too many intangibles. There are too many unhandicappable aspects to some of these international games. But heck, that doesn't mean that we can't find something that will pay off big in this game. And for me, Jim, we're going to put together a 4-person German parlay, and it's going to start with the Colts quarterback. And that's going to be our boy Daniel Jones, who gave a little bit back last week as he struggled on the road against Pittsburgh. But I'm leaning on his passing yard prop. First off, bet number 1 under the total. He opened at 244.5. When I bet it this morning, he was already down to 241.5. So it seems like some of the sharp money is in agreement. So we're going to play Daniel Jones under 241.5. Obviously, this is based on the fact that the Colts are taking on a Falcons defense that has been fantastic against the pass this season. They're allowing less than 175 passing yards per game. It's the fewest in the NFL. And in fact, only one quarterback all season long has thrown for more than 245 yards against Atlanta, and that was Drake May, and it happened just last week. So outside of May, only 6 quarterbacks have even surpassed 200 yards in this game. So I'm liking the value, particularly if we're still in the 240s, and we're going to start our 4-person parlay with Daniel Jones under 241.5 passing yards. And we're going to put that together with a guy on the Colts that we're going to be betting under the total. In fact, this is going to be a under, over prop, which, most of the prop bettors out there, let's be honest, they like betting overs. But I like the fact that 3 out of 4 aspects of this bet are actually on under the total. And we're going to take a look at the Colts tight end, Tyler Warren. Obviously, in the race for Rookie of the Year in the NFL, he's having a fantastic season. He's averaging, well, his over under in terms of receptions is 4.5, and we're going under 4.5. Yes, he's averaging 4.6 on the season, but he's finished with 4 or fewer catches in 5 games. And in fact, he's gone over this line in only 2 of the last 5 games. And they've kind of gone away from Tyler Warren a little bit, particularly after this trade that the Colts made when they traded away Adonai Mitchell. Um, with him off the field, Tyler Warren's numbers have been slightly different now. He's not 1, he's not 2, he's the number 4 team target share on the season at 20%. The players on the Colts who are getting more targets right now than Tyler Warren are Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, and Josh Downs. They're top 3 wide receivers. Additionally, over the last 3 weeks, with the Donai Mitchell off the field, Warren's target share has dropped to 16.7. So I think we're getting some value. A lot of people are still betting Tyler Warren over props based on his first of the month season when he was fantastic. Right now, there's value on him under the total, and he's going to be part 2 of our 4-person parlay. So we're going Daniel Jones under passing yards, Tyler Warren under 4.5 receptions. And then we're going to go to the other side of the equation here. And we're going to first take a look at a guy who had a fantastic week last week, and that's Drake London. This guy who had I think he had every single Atlanta touchdown last week in that loss to New England. Drake London. Now he got hurt, mini concussion going on right now. Got to make the trip overseas. He had a fantastic 38% target share last week. This is the perfect time to go low on London, particularly. Remember the big trade this week? The fact that Sauce Gardner was traded to the Colts. Guess what? Guess who's going to be playing this week? Sauce Gardner. Guess who's going to be guarding 90% of the time when he's on the field? London. So that's a negated matchup right there when you got London being guarded by Sauce Gardner. So we're playing London under his 72.5 passing yards. It's a great spot to go under, particularly knowing that Sauce Gardner is going to be on him the whole time over there in Germany. So that's the third under portion of this parlay. And finally, the only over portion we're going to play is the fact we're correlating everything together here. Is if London struggles, somebody on Atlanta is going to pick up their pace, going to pick up their game. And this is obviously going to be tight end Kyle Pitts, who opened at 42.5 receiving yards. And when I bet it this morning, it's up to 45.5. So again, it appears the Sharps are in agreement with us. Kyle Pitts over 45.5 receiving yards. Obviously, we got the London factor being guarded by Sauce Gardner. Not only that, but Kyle Pitts has come on strong lately. He's played a larger role in this Atlanta offense over the last month of play. And not only that, but the Colts have had mixed success defending the pass, particularly against tight ends. They've allowed the second most yardage to tight ends on the season, and in fact, 5 touchdowns to the position as well. You may even want to include a Kyle Pitts touchdown. Who knows? But when we tie everything together here, Jim, it's, to me, makes sense, logical, correlated, 4-person parlay. Daniel Jones under 241.5 passing yards. Tyler Warren under 4.5 receptions. London under 72.5 receiving yards. Pitts over 45.5 receiving yards. In Germany, this pays 10-1. Not a bad parlay. It makes sense. It gives us some action in that early Sunday morning game without necessarily breaking the bank. So it's a cool little across the pond parlay in Germany on Sunday. It's a 4-person parlay. I think it's a great way to kind of start the day. But that's going to be our pretty much our big parlay correlated put together in regards to this Colts game. And do we have any opinions from your side in regards to this one, Jim?
I love it. It's a great way to get up at 6:30 in the morning and on the West Coast and have
Nice, yeah.
your blood pumping with a parlay like this. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, you don't put a lot of money in it, but you're getting a nice payoff.
Right, you're getting a nice payoff if it does hit as you are looking or envisioning the game script in your head. It kind of makes sense. All 4 of our points in that particular game. So I think we got something there, at least something juicy to start the day, and that is for sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to conclude things, Jim, with a TD scoring parlay. Again, we don't do well on these, but all it takes are 1 or 2 to hit throughout the course of the season. And this particular TD parlay is a 3-player TD parlay that pays 23-1 odds.
Whoa.
You got to kind of like that. That is for sure. And it starts in that game that we were talking about down here in South Florida, and the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been experiencing these big-time injuries again on offense all season long. Bucky Irving out this week. Of course, Mike Evans is out for the year. It looks like Chris Godwin will not play. Somebody's got to pick up the slack for Tampa, and in the last few weeks, it's been this unheralded receiver, Tez Johnson. And Tez Johnson is currently at plus 195 to score this particular week. It's a great time to jump on him to score. I mean, heck, he would be their number 3 wide receiver even if Godwin was back. But heck, he led the Bucs in receptions in their pre-bye week game back in week 8, where he closed at plus 250 and he scored a TD in that game. He was plus 700 the week before that and scored against Detroit. And he also cashed a 350 TD prop in week 6. So this is a hot guy on Tampa. He's almost 2-1 to score. And of course, the Patriots, again, as we mentioned, difficult to run against, but you can pass against the Patriots. Christian Gonzalez, is he playing this week? Is he not? You know, he had a head injury last week that forced his exit from the game. So if he's not playing in the game, or even if he is, he may not be 100%. Either way, I'm going to grab Tez Johnson to score at the current odds of plus 195. And I think it's a great start for our parlay. I think the second player that we want to add in this is going to be a Houston running back. And it is based on the news that yesterday, on Thursday, Nick Chubb missed practice for Houston. Bad news for him, but great news for Woody Marks, the rookie running back from USC. And if Chubb sits, Marks could easily step into a full running back workload at home in the dome with Davis Mills starting at quarterback as well. You think that Hughes is going to run the ball a little bit more with C.J. Stroud out? I think that's pretty much in the game plan. And Woody Marks has been, in terms of playing time, in terms of overall plays, he's been exactly splitting out with Nick Chubb anyway. If Nick Chubb is out, he's going to get all the action in this game. And you got to love his touchdown prop at currently plus 195. Again, almost 2-1 odds to score against a Jacksonville team that you can indeed score on. It looks like Woody Marks is going to be getting a lot of playing time this week, and I think he scores. And again, we're getting him at generous odds. And then our final guy we want to add in this 3-person score a TD parlay, and you can add a lot. There's a lot of guys that are around 2-1 odds to 3-1 odds to score this week that I like Isaiah Likely on the Baltimore Ravens. Much rather play him than Mark Andrews. His odds are higher, Isaiah Likely. Another guy, David Njoku of the Browns. You know, Tommy Reese is now taking over the play calling offensively again. And Njoku thrived under Tommy Reese last year. Not to mention the fact that Harold Fannin of the Browns didn't practice on Wednesday. I didn't check yesterday's practice reports, but Njoku could be Cleveland's only tight end this week. Another guy worth playing a touchdown at. Currently at plus 280 as well. Anyway, the third guy, my long-winded way of adding the third guy to our parlay is going to be Trey McBride of the Cardinals. I absolutely love him to score this week, and he's currently at plus 160 odds. And as long as Jacoby Brissett is under center, we talked about it earlier, Trey McBride should keep producing. He has seen 11 red zone targets over 3 games with Brissett at quarterback. He's converted 4 of them into touchdowns. So 4 touchdowns in 3 games already with Brissett for Trey McBride. He's already doubled his touchdown total from last season. He's scored in every game Brissett has started, and he leads all tight ends in red zone looks since week 6, even after he missed week 8 game. So I wouldn't go much lower than about plus 150, but at his current odds of plus 160, Trey McBride to score, yes, please. I'm going to play him individually, and I'm also going to add him to this 3-player parlay, which the last time I looked, Jim, pays 23 to 1 odds. Tez Johnson, Tampa Bay to score. Woody Marks, Houston to score. Trey McBride to score, Arizona Cardinals tight end. This is a nice little parlay that's got some meat on the bone. And again, if it hits, Jim, if we just hit 1 or 2 of these suckers, we're going to have a fun season. So this one pays 23 to 1 odds.
That's and another. It's a lot of big odds, a little bit of money bet. But like you said, if you hit one of them during a season, it covers a lot of losses, and you can have a lot of fun. It's all about fun, and it's all about making money. You can have fun and make money too. Hey,
right.
That's the answer.
That's what sports betting is all about. You're absolutely right. And yeah, we save our larger dollar amounts for full game totals or team totals or even halftime totals. And we sprinkle a little bit here and there in regards to player props and TD scoring props. Like you say, enough to make it a fun experience. But I think we got some interesting action this week with the Germany parlay of 4 players, this 3-player parlay, and of course the totals plays we mentioned earlier in the show. And with that said, Jim, I think we've just about hit it. Are there any other, games that you wanted to talk about this week from a totals perspective?
Oh, boy, I'll tell you. Well, I mean, I think the Browns and Jets look like an under to me. The under Jags and Texans look like an under. The Bills and Dolphins look over. Eagles and Packers look kind of under to me. These are my opinions. I wonder if you feel the same way.
I agree with every single opinion you just said. Every single one, including the Monday night game. I think it's going to be lower scoring than people think with the Packers hosting the Eagles. A pissed off Green Bay team. You could, I think that this Tucker Kraft injury at tight end is really going to hold them back offensively, passing, particularly as good as Jordan Love has looked in the last couple of weeks. Tucker Kraft was a key component to this passing game. So I can definitely see Green Bay keeping the ball on the ground a lot more this week against Philadelphia. Another team that would be smart to perhaps maybe run the ball a little bit more than pass the ball. And we're at 44.5 in that game. As long as you keep it at 44.5, you may want to bet it now because it may go down once we get to Monday. But 44.5 is a good line if you want to go under the total on Monday night.
Now, the Eagles, which they normally have a pretty good staff, executives, and they made some moves at the trade deadline during their bye week. I was kind of impressed. But they're an impressive team from the executive level, and I think they support their team pretty well with smart moves.
Yeah, they got a brain trust there that is as good as any team in the NFL, and just always making, and they're always a step ahead of the game in regards to their trades as well. always a step ahead of every other team in the NFL. Smart team.
And especially when they're in the same division as the Dallas Cowboys, who do nothing right.
Right, who are as dumb as any team in the NFL, making moves like that, like the trades they made this week that a lot of people are still scratching their heads over.
And Jerry Jones leads the pack in questionable. Although nobody can question the fact that he's been able to make a lot of money somehow. He's obviously good at some other things.
Definitely. Now, hey, don't forget our newsletters, Totals Tip Sheet this week. We talk about the high-scoring season in the NFL. And we've got a 4-star over of the week that I haven't mentioned. Excuse me. It's available at the playbooksports.com website, as is, I got to mention my colleague, Mark Lawrence. He's got a 10-star college football game of the year. It's going this week. Surprise, surprise, it's an underdog. It's not surprising for Mark, but he promotes the play. He advertises the play in this week's Playbook Football newsletter, and you don't want to miss it. Mark does good with these 10 stars. Really, really good.
I think Mark had, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he go 3-0 in his NFL picks last week?
Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills, Arizona Cardinals on Monday. Yeah. College has been a little bit struggle back and forth, but Mark's coming out strong in the NFL. And as you mentioned, he did go 3-0 last week. Yeah.
Well, college is tough now because of the NIL and the transfer portal. There's a lot of strange things going on with that.
You're absolutely right. And that is the number one reason why it has been so difficult to handicap, not just sides, totals, everything. I'm having my problems in college football totals as well, to be honest. So there you go.
And when the announcement comes out at the beginning of the year and they say, hey, we got 70 new players on the roster this year. I mean, right away, you know that there's going to be a lot of chaos.
Right.
I mean, putting that all together and getting everybody to blend. And, it is what it is. It's the change is the only thing that's consistent in life. Everything changes, and the rules have changed. And so I know a lot of really good college football handicappers, and they're struggling this year. Really are.
Yep.
How does it end up? Nobody knows.
It's a new game. You're right. Yeah.
It's a new game. It's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
And have a great day and a great week. Let's win some money. Let's have some fun. Thank you.
You too, Jim. Have a great weekend, Jim. Thank you.
You did a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.